to the west certainly seems to make more sense, as it will not only This is the American Fork City Council meeting for Tuesday, August 29th. Again, our agenda has been published on the state website as required by law and posted conspicuously throughout the community. We will follow the agenda as outlined. We'll start tonight with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer by Councilman Kevin Barnes, after which I will conduct a roll call. Would the audience please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, as we come together this evening as citizens of American Fork and surrounding cities, we are so grateful for the blessings that we enjoy living in this great land, for the protection and guidance of thy hand upon this entire country. We're grateful for blessings and freedoms and the opportunity to meet on occasions such as tonight and to discuss items that pertain to the city and to the residents that live here. We're grateful for all those who serve, for city employees and volunteers and committees who do so much to help our city. We're grateful for the leadership of our city, for those who have given to be able to serve as mayor and members of the city council. And we pray as we meet here this night and we discuss issues that in some cases are very close to hearts of different people with different points of view. We pray that we might be generous in our thoughts, that we might treat others with respect, that we might be able to move forward in all of the items that will be discussed, that movement might be for the benefit of the citizens of this community and those that surround us. We're grateful, Father, for those who serve in our military, for their dedications, for their sacrifices, for the sacrifices of their families, that we might be able to come together in meetings such as this and all of the other activities we participate in and know that we are blessed and we are free. We're grateful again for all of our blessings. We pray for thy guidance in this meeting and in our daily lives, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman. I will now conduct a roll call. Councilman Barnes.
Here.
Councilman Bowen.
Here.
Councilman Frost.
Here.
Councilman Shelton.
Here.
Councilman Shorter.
Here.
We have a quorum and can conduct the business of the city this evening. I know we have several young men here in uniform this evening. I'd like to take this opportunity to encourage you all to sign in the paper in the middle of the room. And if you would, then come forward, tell us your name, your rank, your scout, what troop you belong to, and we can recognize you. Come forward at this time, please. Don't make me beg. Get up here. Come on, get up here. Come around, face the audience. There you go. Tell us your name, please.
I'm Bodie Banks, and I'm second class.
What's your troop number?
814.
Thank you.
I'm Ethan Poley, and I'm a Life Scout, and I'm in Troop 814.
Thank you.
I'm TJ Adamson. I'm a Life Scout, and I'm from Troop 814.
Thank you.
I'm Isaac Widdison. I'm a first class scout and I'm troop 814.
Thank you.
My name's Zach Weir. I'm a second class scout and I'm with Troop 814.
Thank you.
I am James Barney. I am a tenderfoot and I am troop 1151.
Thank you.
My name is Derek Corbridge. I'm a second class. I'm a troops 1151.
I'm Ethan Thostrom. I'm in troop 1151 and I'm a second class.
Thank you.
I'm Cohen Reed, and I'm a tenderfoot in Troop 1151.
Thank you.
I'm Henry Reed, and I'm a tenderfoot in Troop 1151.
Thank you.
I'm Austin Christiansen. I am a tenderfoot in Troop 1151.
Thank you.
I'm Evan Williams. I'm a tenderfoot in Troop 1151.
Thank you.
I'm Wyatt Oaks. I'm a tenderfoot in Troop 992.
Thank you.
I'm Gavin Bird. I'm a second class in Troop 814.
Thank you.
I'm Riker Dunkley. I'm a Star Scout and I'm in Troop 814 led by Brian Bird.
Thank you.
I'm Carter Hawley. I'm in Troop 1174 and I'm a tenderfoot.
I'm Skylar. I'm a Weeblo and I'm in 709.
Thank you.
I'm Adam, and I'm Troop 709.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be here or not, but I'm Troop 709. I'm the leader of the Webelos in American Fork.
I'd like you young men to raise your hands, please, if you're in Jason Hall's troop. Would you just raise your hand, please? I just have to laugh because it hasn't been that long ago that he was your age and he was standing in front of the microphone doing the same thing you're doing. So it's kind of fun. We wish you well as you travel along Scouting's path. It's an interesting time. There's many opportunities to serve. We would ask you when it comes time for get your life and you're looking for that Eagle Project, look around your neighborhood. Look around your ward. Look around your school. Look around the community and see what you can do for an Eagle Project that will benefit your neighborhood, your ward, your school, or the community, because we enjoy working with Eagle Scouts on Eagle Projects. We get a lot of good projects from your help. Again, congratulations for being with us this evening. We're happy to have you with us. We will now have a 20-minute public comment period, limited to 2 minutes per person. If there's anyone here that would like to make the mayor, the city council, or the senior staff aware of an issue in our community that you'd like to make us aware of, you may come to the microphone at this time, state your name, and tell us what's on your mind, please. Thank you. That's the best news I've heard all night.
Council and Mayor, I came to share some thoughts with you, but after the last 30 minutes, I don't have the heart. So let me just share a couple thoughts about water. You guys all know that there's something going on in American Fork City right now with water. I was in negotiation with Ernie John, the city's representative, and they were interested in a purchase of water shares. On the 20th of July, something changed, okay? A meeting with the city administrator, and from that time forward, Ernie John was just like he had taken his cell phone away. No calls, no comment. He was going to get back to me, let me know the city's intent. Since then, I have tried to set up a meeting with the city administrator on 4 separate occasions. Yesterday I emailed the secretary and she said, yeah, the next, today she responded, next available opportunity would be a week from tomorrow. That will be 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I've been trying to set up a meeting to discuss what's going on. I'm president of Mitchell Hollow. I've served as American Fork Water Master for 15 years. 10 years as the assistant before that. And anyway, whatever's going on, there is a nasty, nasty undercurrent associated with this. Staff fearful that they're going to lose their jobs for doing what the city has done for 50 years, the policies and ordinances in place. And now you mention water in a city setting and nobody will even look you in the eye. The girls are afraid to talk about it. Staff members don't even want to hear about it. And whatever's going on, it ought to be done in an open and a little more user-friendly setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I will take the opportunity to respond to that. There's always one issue. There's always a straw that breaks the camel's back. And American Fork City was approached by the LDS Church, who has a great deal of land, but far more water than they have land to put it on. And they wanted us to bank. And in the past, we have done certain banking actions. Not every one of them has made it to the top of the flagpole. Some have been decided by the city engineer or others through agreement. But when the church came to us and 90% of their water was slough water, we looked at that and says, what value does slough water have to us for our pressurized irrigation system or for our culinary water system? Water that comes out of wells is great water. We can relocate that well or take those water rights to one of the wells we already have, and we can pump that amount of water out of an existing well. But water that comes out of a slough, and most of these sloughs are south of town, and the church uses them to flood irrigate certain church properties. And that's when we says, we got to put the brakes on this until we get some action, know a little bit more about it and look at it. So we have a meeting Tuesday night with the Metropolitan Water Board and the irrigation company, and I think we're meeting Thursday of next week with the city's legal counsel, Smith Hardvigsen, and talking about the value of different types of water and what the city should do as we go forward. We'll then change our ordinance to say that these well rights are good for this and slough water is good for this, and we can move forward. And I'm not saying that Mitchell Hollow water or Mitchell Springs is slough water. I'm saying that's the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's why we didn't want to get involved in this in banking, because as growth occurs in the north end of the county, many more stake centers are going to be built, many more seminaries, those kinds of things, and it's difficult for us to keep providing culinary water when I'm given slough water in exchange for that culinary water need. And so I hope that explanation is good enough for you, Jeff. It's taken me that long to get all the players together and to make this thing happen. So I apologize for the time, but we will have an answer, and it will be done in an open forum. We'll rewrite our ordinance. We'll have a public hearing in this meeting, and we will do it as we go forward. So go right ahead.
Thank you. Slough water, I understand. Okay, Mitchell Springs and Mitchell Hollow water. If you go look on 700 North or up in the equestrian park, the best right in the north end of the county. Always has been. Mitchell Hollow shares right now are out yielding American Fork Irrigation Company shares by 2 to 1. Okay, twice as much water in the hottest, driest time of year. Now, the rationale that I've heard is that we can't use it today, we don't want it. If American Fork City would have taken that posture, you wouldn't have taken in 1 share of American Fork Irrigation Company water over the last 45 years because you had no place to use it, right? You rented it to the training school, to farmers like me, to any individual that walked in City Hall because you had no place to use it. Tri-City Golf Course, Fox Hollow, they used the water. So if you take that same position, you would have built your pressurized irrigation system and then said, okay, now we have a system to use it in, let's take the water in. No, we don't do that. We take the water, we take it with annexation, then we design a system, and one of those is on the master plan to be built in the bottom of Mitchell Hollow, just below 700 North, and it's a good plan, and I just encourage you all to get familiar with that.
Thank you.
Just with that real quick, Jeff, again, I don't think any of us on the council have had an opportunity to really understand a lot of this. It's been done more on an administrative level. Anytime we do a policy change, I really believe we need to be involved, and it sounds like we'll be involved here in the next few weeks as an ordinance change is coming about. So I appreciate you at least making us aware of the issue.
That's all I asked for, is to have some input. And you heard the last 30 minutes, people get mad when they don't have input. And all I did was offer input. And I can name off a whole list of people that have had access to David Bunker's office, and I have been denied that access. And one of them walked in with no appointment and spent an hour. But when I walked in, he was busy and doing other things, and I take issue with that.
Any other comments, please? Hearing none, we will close the public comment portion of the meeting. We will move on to the city administrator's report. Mr. Bunker.
Mayor and Council, there's a long agenda tonight, but I did want to make you aware of one thing, and that is the library continues to have issues with the chiller, and when the temperatures get so hot in there, it's intolerable for the people there that frequent the library. So they are closing at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when those temperatures exceed 85 degrees by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So the library will be closed at 5 o'clock until those temperatures start to come back in line. We anticipate that's going to be for at least another week.
Or until we get the chillers fixed. Thank you. We'll now hear the city council reports on their committee assignments. Councilman Barnes, please.
I have a bunch of them, but because of the time, I will limit it to 3 and try and make them brief. First one is last week I attended a candlelight vigil in Cedar Hills for Sergeant Butler, who was killed. I think everybody is aware of that. I bring that up because Lieutenant Ludlow from our police department, I don't think he's here, I haven't seen him, he was asked to speak there, and he is former military as well as a lieutenant in our police department, and he represented the city very well and spoke very well. Did a great job there. Those are always difficult assignments. If you've never had one of those, count yourself lucky. In addition to him, there were some other police officers there, and we acknowledge that they were there. Many of you are aware that last Friday, Saturday, and last night there was a history pageant that was held over at the city cemetery. This is the first time in about 5 years that's been held. It's a great event where people can come and learn about people who lived in American Fork in the past, and usually those histories are told by someone in their family. They're carefully researched. They get into period costume. They do a lot of things that are quite interesting, and I just wanted to salute Cindy Hollidrake and all those who served on her committee and helped her with that. I don't have any idea of final numbers or anything, but it was a good attendance, and it will be held again next year. We hope to continue with that. The last one is a report on a little meeting I attended a week ago today, last Tuesday morning at Firehouse Subs. Were the owners of Firehouse here? There they are. Come on up, guys. Couldn't see you with all the people. I had looked for you earlier. Last Tuesday morning, there was a special presentation held at the Firehouse Subs over in American Fork, where, and I didn't write the numbers down. I'm embarrassed for that. But there was equipment that was presented to the American Fork Police Department, the Lehigh Police Department, Pleasant Grove Police Department, or fire, excuse me, I'm saying police. They were all fire. And then the Utah County Sheriff's Office. Chief Brams, are you here? There he is. Sorry, there's way too many people here tonight. We're not used to this. If I may, Mayor, could I just ask the chief to give a brief report about what that is? And while I've got the microphone, thanks to Firehouse Subs for doing this. This was grant money that was provided through the Firehouse Subs Foundation to do these kinds of things. And I think it was that night or the next night I saw where Pleasant Groves had already been used, and had been instrumental in saving 1 or 2 lives already. And what a great thing for our community. Another just a neat thing that happens. So thank you.
Go ahead, Chief.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity. This is Mr. Page and Mr. Page. They're the owners of the Firehouse Subs. Like Councilman Barnes mentioned, our portion of that grant money was just over $33,000. And we was able to work with these gentlemen on landing a grant for the extrication equipment. It's battery powered. It's a game changer for us. It streamlines the process of getting people extricated out of vehicles that's been involved in accidents. And those of you that don't know extrication equipment, better known as Jaws of Life and cutters and a ram. So we was able to practice at their business and put on a show and show what it can do. But I just wanted to personally thank Will and Mr. Page for the opportunity and the grant and the business they run, and we certainly appreciate it. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just one last comment while they're shaking hands. That grant application was written by one of our firemen, and he did a great job, so now he's got a second career. We're going to be all over him. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I would just like to thank the citizens and the people that have come out tonight to offer public testimony, and also the scouts. I think it's great they're here. I know a lot of them, that's probably for citizenship in the community. Maybe for some, it's the communications merit badge. But, having the opportunity to come speak in a forum like this, to have a hearing, that's part of citizenship. And I think it is a great system we have. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. I have nothing to report otherwise, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Frost, please.
Nothing to report tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Shelton.
Just quick thanks on the Heritage Pageant. Myself and my kids were able to attend. It was a great event. Glad to see that come back, and I heard a lot of good people there that would like to see that continue as well. So really enjoyed that. Really want to just give a shout out to our police department and fire department. I appreciate them working well over the last couple weeks. As we worked through some issues with dispatch, and they were very patient, and I appreciate you bringing it to light and still keeping that focus of always being ready and serving our community. So thank you.
Councilman Shorter, please.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. For the mayor's report, I will report tomorrow at noon. We have a ribbon cutting at a new chiropractic office at 456 East State, and we will be there to welcome them into the Chamber of Commerce and wish their business well. That will end the mayor's report. We'll move on now to the common consent agenda. Items on this common consent agenda include the approval of the August 1st, 2017 work session minutes, approval of the August 8th, 2017 City Council minutes, and approval of a partial release of the performance guarantee bond in the amount of $75,516 for North Shore Corporate Center, Plat E, located at 758 South Automall Drive. I will state that we have no request to change the minutes, and so I will ask that the motion be made to approve the common consent agenda.
So moved, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Have a motion by Councilman Shelton, seconded by Councilman Shorter. Any questions on the motion?
Just a quick comment, Mayor. It'd be nice at some point on the minutes if we could do actual transcripts rather than the summaries. I recognize that a good effort's made on those minutes, and I appreciate that. It is a bit of a filter, though, and I think a transcript would be nice, just so you can get all the details and color of these meetings. Sometimes I think relevant and pertinent issues and matters are missed. I did check, I will say I checked the votes from our last council meeting for me personally, and I don't have any changes to those votes. I'm not going to vote for these minutes, however, but I am in favor of releasing the bond payment that's also part of this amendment. I mean this agenda item, so I just wanted to put that on the record.
All right, thank you. Hearing no other comments, I will call for a voice vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Nay.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. On our action agenda this evening, we will start with action item number 1. Review and action on an ordinance to modify, continue, or terminate the agricultural protection area located in the city of 1200 West and 200 South. Let me again state a couple of things. I've heard a lot about what the plan shows and what's going on, but in reality, if you look at what's changed in the area in the past 8 years, time that I've been mayor, the ag protection was initiated. The front runner station has been located and constructed. UDOT has identified the need for a vineyard connector. The preliminary alignment avoided ag protected areas. UDOT now has realized the connection will carry more traffic from Pioneer and the east-west flow of traffic, which will affect the vineyard connector as well. This causes an increase in size for the vineyard connector, making the original alignment unfeasible. The city continues to develop and modify the area plan and zoning for the TOD areas. The most recent modifications to the plan were in December of 2016. The changes are a natural progression to be modified to meet the needs of the transient-oriented development. As the vineyard connector expands in scope, the city desires to keep the TOD together as a cohesive and compact development. And lastly, UDOT has now determined to access to 200 South can be granted to the new alignment. This will be very necessary for the traffic loading anticipated to be generated from the high-density development around the transient-oriented development. Now, with that, if there's questions, we got the planners here, we got the staff, you've heard public comment this evening. Council, where do you wish to go with this? I'm just saying it, we've got a chance to look at this and see what the alignment is and what it can mean for the city. And if we don't, we've closed the window for another 20 years. So,
Mayor, all I want to know is I want to approve it, but are we modifying it or terminating it in that specific area, or just what's their plan here?
The intent is to carve out a 200-foot wide swath through the ag protected area and the map that was shown to you earlier.
Okay, then I'd move to approve the ordinance modifying the ag protection area located at 1200 West, 200 South as described.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilman Shorter, seconded by Councilman Barnes. Any discussion on this motion?
I had a couple comments here. I was on the phone today with legal counsel, and both for the county and for the city. I was under the impression that we had to take action tonight because of this 120-day period, which I don't believe to be accurate. I believe that we actually have till the end of the year. It was the public hearing that had to be held 120 days ahead of time. I believe this is a big item for our city, and I appreciate Mary. You participated, Street, that's here tonight. You participated in that steering committee that we had. That Mr. Struthers, did he leave from Lehigh, had mentioned. I think it's very important that the collective wisdom of a group is better than an individual, and I think it would make sense for us to get together and talk about that. I'd love to see if we couldn't table this issue and bring it to a work session or a committee type thing, not to extend it out to the end of the year, but to be able to really take a look at this. I really appreciate the patience of the Allreds and what they've shown, and I think that's the least we could do and understand what other impacts are there. So that would be one thing I would just plead with fellow council members to take a look at and seeing if we can't have a little more discussion on this item.
I have a motion on the floor. I have a motion and a second. I will call for a voice vote on the motion.
Can I just make a quick comment, Mayor?
Go right ahead, Councilman.
You know, for years, American Fork City had a hub as their logo. And it represented that we were kind of in the middle of North Utah County. And as I've kind of looked at this road and how it impacts not only American Fork, believe me, in my decision-making processes, I have read, I can't say every letter, I saw a lot of duplicity in them, but I knew the thoughts and your desires being an adjacent property owner. But we are in the middle of trying to facilitate traffic, really, not only just for American Fork. This is not self-serving in any way. No more than Pioneer Crossing is self-serving for Lehigh. We are trying to move traffic to Eagle Mountain, to a section of your city and Saratoga. And then along the way, we're trying to capture a few benefits for ourselves in the TOD because the current alignment as it stands, and I have been researching this out for over a year and a half, I've been involved. If we bring the Vineyard Collector onto 200 South, we create chaos. It just can't do it. It will turn people either to the Mill Pond Road or it will turn them right onto 300 West into American Fork Main Street from a major collector. And so this is not a decision that I have made in haste by any means. I have lost sleep over it, but we are in the middle of this, American Fork City, and so are you. And so I want to bring out some of the similarities. Similarities meaning that no matter where this goes, it's going to impact people, developments, where people will drive, where they're going to idle, and some of the health effects of that. And so I would just say that I am going to vote in favor of this, but I actually feel like this is just opening a door, and I'm not saying that just to be as a scapegoat for UDOT, but I think that we will recommend to them, and I would recommend to the Lehigh residents here, that you do not, that you have a voice as well with your council that has the ability to go to UDOT and say, UDOT, why don't you look to go underneath us? Why don't you go right underneath us? Now, one way or the other, their development might be impacted. It's either going to go to the east of you or to the south of you. But we have to facilitate a large amount of traffic that's going to go west. And so I wish it would go away, because I think that we could sustain and we could make our own traffic pattern in our TOD and make it work. But this is presented and we have a window, and I think it's worth taking a look at and a study. But I also will make recommendation to UDOT, and I would ask you to as well, through your own voice like you have here tonight and through your elected officials, to have them look at this, to go down and go south of everything. And so maybe they have 3 alignments to look at. Okay, now I don't know what obstacles that are in their way if they go south, because I have not researched into Lehigh City property. But I do know what's in front of us here, and I do think that it's kind of it is a compromise, and I feel for the Allreds, but I'm not saying that it's a foregone conclusion. If UDOT looks at their own alignment and thinks that the studies they have done is adequate, then the current alignment will stand. And so I just wanted to kind of tell you how I felt about this before and I've told you where I'm going to vote for it, but I wanted to tell you why. So thanks.
I had some comments too, Mayor, if I may. We've had a lot of input on this issue, and I think it's fair to the public to provide our perspective and our reasoning. The way I look at issues like this, I try to identify what principles are involved. With an issue like this, it's pretty clear to me it's property rights. And specifically who the owners of the property are, I think, carries a lot of weight. You know, in this case, the Allreds are some key property owners. They came here to our one of our previous council meetings, several actually, with 4 generations of their family, at least 3 generations of their family, saying that they, you know, that they wanted to maintain this agricultural protection zone. And I think they're aware that they could probably get quite a bit of money for their land. And what I heard from all 4 generations is they would rather have the agricultural use protected, at least at this point. And so I recognize their rights to that, and that carries a lot of sway in my book on an issue like this. And so I'll be voting against opening or making this change to the agricultural zone. I also voted against opening this up to change in the first place, just based on their previous testimony and kind of where it's at. As other comments were made, you know, I had had a lot of the same thoughts in the days we've been considering this before this meeting with, you know, it is possible to change the TOD. We currently have one developer who owns some of the land that's part of that. You know, whether he gets financing remains to be seen. Of course, if he does, we want, you know, whoever that is, we want it to be a successful development. But we also respect the rights of other people in the area. I used to deliver papers with we had a son that was raising money for a school thing at the end of the year trip to Washington, D.C., and we delivered papers for a year, and I had the opportunity to deliver them throughout American Fork several years before I was on the council. And honestly, I almost didn't even know that part of American Fork existed down there, but I absolutely loved it. We had some papers down there that we delivered, and some days it was pretty foggy, honestly. It was early in the morning. It's just amazing down there. And if people want to maintain that field the way that currently is, and they own that property, I think they have every right to do so, and I think we should respect that. And so that's where I come down on this issue and why.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask for a clarification on the motion? The motion was to terminate the agricultural, modify, okay, and we didn't specify anything on that. So I'm trying to understand the motion. It doesn't say the 200-foot swath from this location to this location. It just says we're going to modify it. I think that's a weak legal argument, and it leaves the Allreds in limbo. So I would like to see if we couldn't clarify that a little bit to make sure. I mean, this is a big deal to them, and if we're going to say we're only going to do a little bit, I'd like to make sure we know exactly what we're doing.
So the actual description is contained in the ordinance that's before you, and that is a centerline alignment description of the exact location and alignment.
So if we go back to the motion then. Okay, I see where that's at. So you're saying that would be specifically in there. And I just noticed that Allred said that they didn't, okay. No more questions, Mayor.
All right, I have a motion by Councilman Shorter, seconded by Councilman Barnes. I'll call for a voice vote on the agricultural protection area modification. Councilman Barnes.
Just one quick comment, if I may, before I vote.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get in quick
quick enough. We were
enough.
through with comments.
No, you were looking the other way. Sorry. As I understand it, this is just to open the door to study it. We've not made any decisions. I can guarantee you that I have not made a decision. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough information at this point. But the only way I can get that information is to get the studies done and get all of the pieces of the puzzle that we can. Therefore, I vote aye.
Thank you. Councilman Bowen.
I vote nay, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Nay.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 2, review and action and ratification of city payments from August 1st to August 22nd, 2017, and approval of purchase requests over $25,000.
Mayor, I'd move to ratify and approve the payments from August 1st to 2017 through August 22nd and approve purchase request over $25,000.
Thank you, Councilman Shorter. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Have a motion by Councilman Shorter, seconded by Councilman Frost. Any questions on this motion?
I had a question, Mayor. There are a few of these expenses I don't agree with, but one I noticed was an $8,000 credit card purchase. And that just seems like a lot for a credit card. If we don't already have policies limiting that amount, I would think we would want to do that. I know this was probably computer equipment because it was PC Connections where it was made. You know, and I've mentioned in the past that we used to have a finance committee before I came on the council that would review these expenses in a public formal forum. And I think that's really beneficial because I think it's so important, this oversight role, and I think it's a little too informal when we just send out the expenses and ask people to kind of review them on their own. But I just wanted to point out that expense, and if we don't already have a policy limiting a credit card purchase of that amount, I would suggest we put something like that in place. My guess is this is a capital equipment purchase. You know, computers are usually 5 years, so they're amortized out on the depreciation and stuff, which would make it capital.
Would you respond, please, Mr. Bunker?
Yeah, we'll look into that, and that is for the computer replacement program, like you identified. So that is correct.
Okay.
And those are reviewed, and we do get bids. We go through a process to make sure that we're getting the low bid. We also go through our IT contract with Rocky Mountain, and they also go through that process as well to ensure that the city gets the best price.
Okay, great. And there might be a valid reason it was put on a card, but it just kind of raises eyebrows for me. I would expect an expense like that to typically, you know, have a check cut or something like that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the city payments and purchase requests over $25,000. I will call for a voice vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Nay.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item 3, review and action on amended ordinance approving the disbursement of fiscal year ending 2017 park tax funds.
This is to clarify my language and what I tried to do the last time in that long-winded motion. So I'm glad it's a little bit shorter. I'll move to adopt the amended ordinance approving the disbursement of fiscal year ending 2017 park tax funds.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Shelton. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Seconded by Councilman Frost. Any questions on this motion?
Just a comment. I think in future votes on this, it would be nice to be able to vote on each individual grant application. So as you know, the council voted to establish a grant process where people request grants, and then the park tax committee makes a recommendation to the council. And rather than just doing an up or down vote on the entire allocation, I think it'd be good to do a up or down vote on each grant request because they're quite different. You know, some are for parks, parking, some are for Timpanogos Arts Foundation and other things like that, and there's some differences there. So I think it'd be nice to be able to vote separately on each one.
So noted. We'll take that under advisement, and in 2018, the new mayor can make that decision. Thank you.
May I ask a question or two, Mayor? It may be out of line. If it is, tell me.
Do you have your button down?
I do. Am I not speaking loud enough?
Speak loud.
Sorry. That's the first time in my life I've ever been accused of not being loud enough. I'm just curious if Councilman Bowen has objections to any particular items. I'm not asking for those. And the question is, if he does, did he visit with anybody on the Park Tax Committee to find out what they were doing and why they did it?
So I appreciate that question. For me, again, it's a matter of principle. I think that since these are tax dollars taken by force, because you have to pay your taxes, you don't have a choice in that. So tax dollars are taken by force, and I think that those should be used for government, for the government. I don't think they should be redistributed to non-governmental entities. And so for the stuff that American Fork City's doing, like park improvements or parking lots for our public facilities, generally I support those, even though I wasn't in favor of the park tax. It is in place now, and if we're talking about spending those monies, I would want to spend them in that way. Whereas if it's, distributing the money to some other organization, I would vote against those.
Chief Fallsliff, can we ask you to go downstairs and see if we can quiet it down a bit, please? Any other discussion?
Mayor and Council, while you're looking at, we want to make sure that the ordinance before you on your screen and on the overhead here is the ordinance that you will be adopting. So there were modifications, but what you see in front of you is the correct ordinance.
Modifications
the change that was there was in the library, and it was for the program for the book fair project, and it went to we increased to $400. I believe that made it in the correct portion of the ordinance. I think we got the right ordinance in front of us.
Great, thank you.
Again, I have a motion and a second. I will call for a voice vote on the park tax distribution ordinance. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Nay.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 4. Review and action on the Mitchell Meadows annexation consisting of consisting of 8.58 acres at 900 North and 900 West, including the ordinance of annexation, the annexation agreement, and the placement of property in the R1 12,000 residential zone.
Mayor, I would move to approve the Mitchell Meadows annexation consisting of 8.58 acres at 900 North, 900 West, including the ordinance of annexation agreement, and placement of the property into the R1 12,000 residential zone.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Shorter. Any questions on this motion? Hearing none, I will do a voice vote on Mitchell Meadows annexation. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Aye.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Voting is unanimous. Moving on to item number 5, review and action on a resolution indicating the city's intent to annex the Stone Creek annexation consisting of 25.71 acres at approximately 300 west and 1,000 south. Any questions on the Stone Creek annexation?
Mayor, I would approve the resolution indicating the city's intent to annex the Stone Creek annexation consisting of 25.71 acres at approximately 300 west, 100 south.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Frost. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Shelton. Any questions on this motion?
Just a correction. It's 300 west, 1,000 south, 10th south, not 100, I think, is what it says. Just want to make sure we get it in there correctly.
At approximately 300 west, 100 south.
1,000
1,000 south. Thank you.
1,000 south. Okay, we have that corrected. Any discussion on this motion? I will call for a roll call vote on the Stone Creek annexation and notice and intent. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Aye.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion is unanimous. Item number 6, review and action on a resolution indicating the city's intent to annex the annexation of the Robinson East annexation consisting of 17.099 acres at approximately 1,400 north and 100 east.
Mayor, I'd move to approve the resolution indicating the city's intent to annex the Robinson East annexation consisting of 17.099 acres and located at approximately 1,400 north, 100 east.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Shorter. Is there a second?
I'll second, and I might just add in something. At one point, we were looking at this as an expansion of cemetery property, if you could imagine. And now it's going to be homes, it looks like.
Now they'll be dying to live there.
I have a motion and a second on the Robinson East annexation notice of intent. I will call for a roll call vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Aye.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 7. Review and action on an ordinance approving a zone map amendment from the R3 7,500 residential zone to the R4 7,500 residential zone located at 860 East Bamberger Drive. Any questions on this item? This is the Cheryl LeBaron property. It's between 9th East, or at the bottom of 9th East, but it's between Bamberger Drive and 700, or Bamberger Drive and Pacific Drive.
Mayor, I'd move to adopt the ordinance approving a zone map amendment from the R3-7,500 feet residential to the R4-7,500 residential zone located at 860 East Bamberger Drive with the condition that any future site plan approval will either complete Pacific Drive on the southern side of the project or construct a public street traversing the parcel that connects Pacific Drive to Bamberger Drive.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Shorter. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Seconded by Councilman Frost. Any questions on this motion? Hearing none, I will do a voice vote roll call. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen. Yes. Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion is unanimous again. We will move on to item number 8. Review and action on subdivisions, commercial projects, and condominiums, planned unit developments, including 1, plat approval, 2, method of satisfaction of water rights requirements, 3, posting of an improvement bond, of setting of a time frame for improvement installation, and 4, authorization to sign the final plat and acceptance of all dedications to the public and to have the plat recorded. We have 4 such items this evening. Item 8A, review and action on amended final plat for the American Fork Commercial Center, Plat K, amended and expanded and extended, consisting of 3 lots located in the vicinity of 268 North, 750 West in the SC1 Planned Shopping Center Zone. This is in the Woodbury area, and as I remember, it is to the side and south of the Kohl's building on Pacific Drive. Any questions on this item?
Mayor, I would move to approve the amended final plat for American Fork Commercial Center Plat K, amended and extended, consisted of 3 lots located in the vicinity of 268 North, 750 West in the SC1 Planned Shopping Center Zone, and to authorize the mayor and city council to sign the plat and accept the dedication with instructions to the city recorder to withhold recording of the plat subject to all conditions identified in the public recording associated with the August 2nd, 2017 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Frost. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Barnes. Any questions on this motion? Hearing none, I will call for a voice vote on the zone map, I beg your pardon, on the final plat of the AFCC Plat K, amended and extended. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Yes.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. Item 8B, review and action on amended site plan for American Fork Commercial Center, Plat K, amended and extended, located in the vicinity of 268 North, 750 West in the SC1 Planned Shopping Center Zone.
Mayor, I'd motion to adopt the ordinance approving a commercial site plan for the American Fork Commercial Center Plat K, amended and extended, with instructions to the city recorder to withhold publication of the ordinance, subject to all conditions identified in the public record associated with the August 2nd, 2017 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Shorter. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll give it to Councilman Barnes. Any questions on this motion? Motion by Councilman Shelton, seconded by Councilman Barnes.
How is this one different from the previous one? That was my only question. This
One is a final plat and one is the site plan. Okay.
Mayor, I'd made the motion instead of Councilman Shelton, just for the record.
Councilman Shorter made the motion. Councilman Barnes made the second. I'm sorry. I will call for a voice vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Aye.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. We will move on. Item 8C, review and action on amended final plat of Autumn Crest Phase 1, Plat A subdivision consisting of 17 lots located in the area of 1000 North County Boulevard in the R1 9000 residential zone. Now, let me give you a background on this. This is just to the north of the American Heritage School. They bought some property and expanded some of their fields, and in so doing, this necessitated that we replat this because some of these lots that are against American Heritage Schools now have deeper lots than was originally platted. Is that pretty much it, Mr. Berg? I got the thumbs up. Let the record show the mayor got a thumb up for one time. That wasn't your middle finger by chance, was it? Okay. It was a thumb. Good, good. All right. Any questions on this item?
So this, the landowner on Autumn Crest, who is that again?
Patterson Construction Service.
That's what I thought. I've seen those homes going up there. It's nice. And they, I know typically these changes are requested by them. I might have missed it in the packet, but they were requesting this change.
They requested the site change because they now got larger lots than what they originally platted to begin with.
Okay, so their lots are larger, not smaller.
Yes, sir. They are larger.
And I guess what, you know, the other side of that is the School American Heritage School, which is awesome, by the way. Wonderful organization and institution. I'm glad to see they're finally expanding there. I know they've had it in the plans for a long time. So they also are okay with this change.
I don't think it's their property. So what you had is they bought it from Patterson.
Patterson
so I'd
sold
assume
the property to them, and they agreed upon the line. So one side is theirs and one side is Patterson's, depending on the agreement through sale.
The mutually agreed upon property line allowed deeper lots than what Patterson had originally requested.
Yes,
and I just wanted to clarify all of that. I
All
appreciate
right.
that, Mayor.
Thank you. I will call for a voice vote on the Autumn Crest Phase 1 Plat A amended.
Mayor, I'll move to approve the amended final plat for Autumn Crest Phase 1 Plat A subdivision consisting of 17 lots located in the area of 1000 North County Boulevard in the R1 9000 residential zone, and authorize the mayor and city council to sign the plat and accept the dedications with instructions to the city recorder to withhold recording of the plat subject to all conditions identified in the public record associated with the August 2nd, 2017 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you for that motion, and thank you for keeping me straight. I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bowen. Any discussion on this item? Okay, now I will do a voice vote on the final plat for Autumn Crest Phase 1, Plat A amended. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Aye.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. It carries unanimously. Item number 9. I beg your pardon. We don't want to leave 8D, do we, Kiwi? No, sir. Okay. Item 8 Delta, review and action on an ordinance approving a site plan for the Meadows Apartments located at 697 West Pacific Drive in the SC1 Planned Shopping Center Zone. I'm going to ask Mr. Olson to come forward and bring us up to speed on this one. This went to the Planning Commission, did it not, for approval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yeah, I'll just give you an update on where the Planning Commission landed on this. It did go before the Planning Commission, and it's now before you. The Planning Commission discussed it and ultimately recommended against the site plan. Just to give you a brief history, when this came before you a number of years ago, the proposal for parking was located to the north of Pacific Drive on the Coles property, or adjacent to the Coles property. The Planning Commission had originally recommended approval of that. They had recommended approval of the reduced parking standard. However, when it came before you, the site plan was not approved because of the remote parking and having to cross Pacific. So the site plan was redrawn, and then there was a proposal to utilize parking directly adjacent to the east. The same parking ratio would be adhered to, the lowered parking ratio that was proposed. The Planning Commission also recommended approval of that. That came before you. You approved that subject to a parking agreement being enacted and under subject to your review of that agreement. The parking agreement came before you a few months ago, or I want to say the end of last year, I believe. You did ultimately approve that parking agreement. However, in the interim, I believe there have been some discussions between the two property owners that may not be amenable. And so what they've done is they're also proposing, they've come back and proposed an alternate plan which places parking again remote, this time instead of to the north, to the west across Nichols Lane. Again, the same ratio of parking that was previously recommended for approval is still here. I believe that ratio is close to 1.7. The Planning Commission looked at this. They felt that the remote parking created some safety issues. They were also concerned with the loss of potential commercial on that corner, as it's a highly visible corner, and they were a little concerned with that loss of commercial. They were also concerned that the city's parking standards were not able to be met, and so they're fairly cognizant now as projects come forward. They've been pretty firm in requiring that those parking standards be adhered to. The applicants have stated in Planning Commission that there is an abundance of parking in the area. However, again, the concern is, do we take some of those potential commercial uses and convert those to parking? Someday when that Meadows Crossing flyover comes over I-15, this is the main corridor along Pacific, and this will be highly visible to those travelers over I-15 and into the Meadows. So this is a key piece. I know that apartments are proposed, and then also across the street to the west on that corner. Is that a loss of commercial area that that we're willing to take right now? So I can answer any further questions if you have any, but that was the background of the Planning Commission and why they landed where they did.
Thanks
I
for
would
being
ask
so
you
succinct.
to remind the council that the last time we saw this, the parking was shared with the businesses to the north, and we could not obtain perpetual parking agreement. It was only for a specified number of years. And the council was adamant that it be perpetual parking, and I think this is what they've come up with. So I apologize for cutting you off, Councilman. Go right ahead, sir.
Mayor, I'll go ahead. I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance approving a commercial site plan for the Meadows Apartments located at 697 West Pacific Drive in the SC1 Planned Shopping Center Zone.
I have a motion by Councilman Shelton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Frost. Any further discussion on this motion?
I have a couple of observations and or questions or maybe stupid comments. My understanding, first of all, this is private property that is being developed by a developer. I'm having a struggle with the city, and when I say the city, I'm not defining or pointing fingers at anybody. But if they want to build it a certain way, I don't think it's up to the city to say we don't like that because we think that should be commercial down the road. We're not buying the property, we're not paying the taxes, and as long as it meets our other criteria, then I think that's about all we can say. If there are safety issues or other things of that nature, then we need to bring those up. But again, as a city, I don't think it's our right to tell people how to develop their property. I agree with Mr. Bowen on his property rights and what I perceive to be this particular issue. It would be nice if we didn't have to cross the road to get the parking. I understand there may be other options or whatever, but again, this is their property and this is what they've decided to do. I've had people say, well, you're going to force mothers and babies when there's 3 feet of snow in American Fork in the middle of the winter to cross a busy road. I think we're all astute enough to realize if the word gets out that that's a dangerous place to live, nobody's going to rent that property. That's not our problem. That's their problem if nobody rents it. Again, it's their problem. It's their property. And again, I don't think we need to dictate some of those issues. I am a little concerned about the property, and I have discussed it. I would like to see more of that parking lot on the west dedicated to these apartments. But we've already kind of opened the door and given them a prior commitment. So I think we've kind of hurt ourselves in that way. I think that property on the west, if it's the west, if I'm correct, I think that'll get used as parking if it's needed, whether you dedicate it as property or not. Some guy's going to pull his big truck in there and he's going to park it and nobody's going to tell him he can't because it's public parking. So I've got some other comments in there. The one, and then I'll shut up. And I see no reason not to trust the Hell's Engineering studies. Every one of those studies, and they could have cherry picked this. I'm old enough to understand cherry picking. Every one of those studies, the highest number of cars that were being parked in those, 5 or 6 places that they cited was about 1.74, maybe 7.8. And I think we're pretty close on that. So I guess with all that said, I'm going to vote for this thing when it comes time.
Okay.
Just a quick comment. I appreciate Councilman Barnes' comments, and I also agree that it's not ideal, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with the owners and the developer on this. I'd just like to note that this extra lot that they're going to use for parking, it is their lot, so they're foregoing development of something else on it in making the decision, you know, that they would rather do this, and so I support them in their ability to. I think they should have the ability to do that. Having said that, though, I do recognize and appreciate the efforts of the Planning Commission. You know, we have rules in the city, and we've kind of tasked the Planning Commission with making sure that people are adhering to the ordinances that have previously been passed, and I'm thankful that they took a careful look at this. Like I said, I'm in favor of the change, even though I don't think it's ideal, but as was mentioned, it is a business decision ultimately, and I think that the person making that business decision has the most to gain and also the most to lose, and I respect that.
Mayor, can I just say one thing? I find this one of the most interesting things that I've faced on 5 years in the council, because at one point the Planning Commission thought Pacific Drive was an acceptable passage. The council thought that it was not, and then we had to. I've just never seen anything flip-flop around so much in my whole life. So I'm thinking that we are done with this and we have a good, viable project, and that everything is satisfied, and I wish you success. I hope it works out well, and I think it'll bring a real interesting component to the Meadows, and how it will blend in with the commerce down there. So that's just all I have to say.
All right. Again, I have a motion and a second. I will call for a vote on item 8D, the site plan for the Meadows Apartments. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Aye.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, can I share just a couple of points of information?
Did you miss the public hearing portion of the meeting?
I did. You kind of ran right over that. Is it okay?
Go right ahead,
There's a couple
sir.
of things that we haven't presented to you or discussed previously, but one of them is that the theater, as of the end of March, had completed the conversion of their stadium seating to luxury seating. The parking requirement for the theater is based on 1 stall for every 3.5 seats. That didn't change when they converted. We freed up probably 53% of the required theater parking. So when we talk about swapping commercial use for parking for apartments, it allows us to more intensively develop the commercial use in proximity to the roundabout and in proximity to the other commercial uses as we go forward here, and then to take the peripheral areas and make them more available for the cross purposes and cross sharing. So we think we're going to get a really good result that will optimize all the various interests.
So the seating in the theater did change?
Yes, it went down but dramatically. So what the theater strategies is to fill more seats for more movies by reservation and et cetera, rather than Blockbuster for 2 or 3 days and then have them out of there within a short period of time. Run the movies longer, fill them more, attract more people more frequently is the strategy. So I think we have the ability to meet more of the objectives
They're
this
sure
way.
nice.
Thank you for
I'll
your
tell you that.
approval.
I sleep very fine when I get down there in those big recliners. Thank you, Kiwi. All right. Let's move on to number 9. Review and action on a master utility agreement with Utah Department of Transportation. Mr. Shade, do your tap dance for us, sir.
Time to tap dance. So, yeah, hurry.
So anytime that we have a project that is happening on the interstate, we enter into master utility agreements for our fiber optic asset that we have. It just kind of sets the rules for what we need to do, what they need to do, and making sure that everyone's on the same page. And so that's what is before you. Any questions, I can answer those.
Did we approve one of these before? Do we do this a lot?
Yeah, we do. We do it a lot. Anytime there's a project on the interstate by UDOT.
So just to clarify, George, and appreciate it. So we have fiber that runs from, our data center up the freeway to the Kearns building, basically, right?
That's correct.
And so even though this work isn't even in Utah County, it's in Salt Lake County. It's it's going to potentially impact that fiber that we own as a city. My question, which was acquired way back when to be kind of a backbone when we were doing residential, but then we sold the residential piece but kept the backbone piece and lease those out and get revenue where we can from that. Since we do have people currently, leasing that fiber backbone, is there any kind of compensation if this is taken out for an extended period of time? It seems like there's not really an incentive for them to keep this up or to get it back up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's a great question. The lucky part that we have in our favor is that we have great people here at the city and all of those who take care, including Centricom, who take care of this fiber. What we do anytime there's a project like this, we plan it out completely beforehand. And then once we start the actual work, our downtime is limited from midnight till 6 a.m. And we only do that. What we do is we take all the active fibers where customers are actually on, and we light those back up first. So once we do that, then everyone's back up. We've never had an outage at this point, knock on wood. We've never had one at this point that's gone longer than 2 hours. So we usually keep them under about an hour, and that's usually only a couple of customers that are towards the end of those active fibers.
I also noticed on this master utility agreement that the dollar amounts were all zero, and that's by design because we as a city are not incurring any cost. Is that correct, or should there be numbers in there?
So there is a federal statute that is in place now that any project that happens on the interstate goes outside of just the state. So there are some there will be some costs incurred on anything that happens on the interstate itself. So if we cross the interstate, go under the interstate, we don't have to pay anything. Those costs are paid anytime that we basically follow the right of way. And so we take that and we do a pro rata share for all of the customers, including Centricom, ourselves, and all of them, and that usually brings the cost way down. And again, it's only for those areas that are directly on the interstate.
Mayor, I'd move to approve the master utility agreement with the Utah Department of Transportation.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Shorter. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Councilman Bowen, for the second. Any questions on this item? Hearing none, I will do a voice vote on the master utility agreement with UDOT. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Aye.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion is unanimous. Item 10, review and action on a resolution declaring certain property to be surplus and disposed of. A public hearing was held on this earlier, and we had no comments. I covered the items that were listed on that. Basically, it's from the library, some shelving and some tables. The police department has 26 bikes. The parks has a 16-foot double axle trailer and two 15-foot picnic tables. And in our IT department, there's 25 cell phones. Those are the items we would like to declare excess and put up for sale.
Just out of curiosity, are the phones smartphones or just actual cell phones?
They are smartphones. There are several that are damaged, that have been dropped and so forth. So there's a few, I believe about 5 or 6 of those, and then there's some used cell phones as well that will be sold.
I know that stuff gets obsolete pretty fast.
Yeah, it's really amazing how quick it moves.
Mayor, I'd move to approve a resolution declaring miscellaneous items, including vehicles, to be surplus and disposed of.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Shorter. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Shelton. Any questions on this motion?
And what were the
There was not a vehicle.
Just a trailer?
It was a trailer, a 16-foot double axle trailer.
Okay. So do we need to amend the language, or does that count, does that trailer count as a vehicle?
It's boilerplate information, including vehicles. I guess the trailer's a vehicle because it's licenses.
Public hearing, because we do whatever we want.
Yep. I have a motion and a second. I'll call for a voice vote on the surplus property resolution. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Yes.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion is unanimous. We will move on to item number 11. Review and action on to certify the results of the August 15, 2017 primary election. This is what we call our canvass. This is required by state law that within 15 days of the election, the council has the opportunity to certify those corrections and that election is complete and correct. Terry Lynn has in front of us a copy of this, and I have asked that she give us one form, and I will have each of the council members as well as the mayor sign those numbers. With that introduction, Mrs. Lurker, go right ahead, please.
Okay, so we obviously we had the election on August 15th. State law requires that we hold a canvass between no sooner than 7 days after and no later than 14 days after. Today's the 14th day, so we're required to hold our canvass today. We did get the final results from the county this afternoon, and as you can see, we have the mayor results right there. So Brad and Carlton will be moving on to the general election. If you can go to the next page. So here is the results for the city council. The top four would be Jeff Shorter, Kyle Barrett, Barbara Christiansen, and Stacy Carroll. Before you, you will have the summary report, so it's those 2 pages. You'll also have the statement of votes cast. So this will kind of go over the details, the precincts, the number of voters, the registered voters, the cards cast, the percentage of the turnout. And then if you go farther down, you will find more detail on the votes per precinct for each person, each candidate. But we just need to have you look through this, and we need to certify the results. So suggest a motion.
Just a question. So I've looked at a lot of election results, and that times cast has been the percent of the precinct that's counted in previous elections. And I don't doubt that I don't question at all that I got fewer votes than Mr. Frost by a large amount, so that's not the issue here at all. I know that we did a vote by mail election this year. I know that there were 70,000 ballots that Utah County sent out in error to voters that weren't eligible to vote with that ballot. And I know that they've been having to separate those. And I know that they've, that with this process, they apparently have to compare signatures ballot by ballot.
Yes.
I just think it's incredibly unsatisfactory that in this day and age, we're getting poor election results as far as how quickly we get the information. The way I read this vote is still only 30-something% counted.
No, that's 30% of the total. 30% or 31.69% of the voters actually voted. Yes,
yeah.
These are all the votes. They all have been counted.
Okay, and I know we've been having updates, every few days, and the counts have been changing, but just really not satisfied with this process at all. As a candidate, I've done mailings, and I took a current list, quite current actually, from the county, and got a large percentage of those returned. Not a huge percent, but some percent always comes back, right? And I've been contacted by multiple voters, more than one, that said they weren't able to vote. They had updated their county registration in time, but they didn't receive their ballot. when they reached out to the county, they weren't able to get their ballot, and they basically weren't able to vote. Now, I know it's up to them to decide whether they want to pursue legal action on that or not, but I think this method has actually literally denied people their right to vote. I know of another instance where a person moved, they updated their voter registration record, and they didn't receive a ballot. Well, they did receive a ballot for their old location, so they were able to vote in their old location, which they no longer lived at. They didn't receive a ballot for their new location, which is where they should have voted at, and they also received multiple ballots at their new location, which they could have illegally cast because they were sent to them, the other people had moved, and no one would have been the wiser. So I'm going to vote against this canvass just because I don't have trust in these results, but I want to make it clear that it has nothing to do with the race between Mr. Frost and myself. I acknowledge and recognize that he's done great. He's done fabulous in the number of votes he garners, and I don't question that at all. But I do question the manner that this election's been carried out and the fact that people have been denied their right to vote, that I've heard firsthand from multiple people.
Okay, I'll pass those comments on to the county. I haven't heard any of those. I'll pass it on.
What's the percentage compared to?
Normally, we feel lucky if we get 14%, and here we got 31.69%, which is over double what we normally
The
get
last
at election.
primary election we had under 7%, I believe. The highest, I checked the last few years, and the highest we've had in a primary election was about 13%.
But you have to recognize this was a special election to replace Representative Chaffetz, which wouldn't normally fall on a municipal cycle, so you were guaranteed to have higher turnout from that. Typically, you do have higher turnout when you go to vote by mail for a short period of time, but over the long term, your turnout actually reduces because people attach less significance to voting because it's not an actual event where they go and vote. Statistically, that's what happens in people that go to vote by mail, but I just thought it was important to note that this was a special election, so it's not an apples to apples comparison if you look at previous municipal election voter turnout.
Is there a vote, or is there a motion to accept the figures as the final vote for American Fork City canvass and move this forward?
Yeah,
moved.
I'll made. Yeah.
Do we need a special motion?
Do we need to change that to say 2017?
Yeah.
2017.
I'm just 2 years off.
No, you're okay.
You should have one of these on your desk.
Oh, I see. That's where it's at. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Mine says 0017, but I'll move to accept, clarify, and certify the 2017 municipal primary election results and canvass. Declare the following to be placed on the November election ballot: Mayor Carlton E. Bowen, Brad Frost, City Council Jeffrey Shorter, Kyle Barrett, Barbara Christiansen, and Stacy Carroll.
Thank you for that motion, Councilman Shelton. Is there a second?
Mayor, I'll second it, and also just thank the citizens who voted and all those who participated. We had good candidates.
I have a second by Councilman Shorter with a thank you to everybody that participated. With that, I'll call for a vote. Councilman Barnes.
Aye.
Councilman Bowen.
Nay.
Councilman Frost.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton.
Aye.
Councilman Shorter.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. And now the item we all came to see.
Oh, before we go, I'm going to have you sign.
Why don't you just pass that around right
okay,
now?
and then we have a plaque.
I have a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mayor.
Seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Frost. I will call for a unison vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. There's also a plat I need you to sign before you leave tonight, gentlemen.